Welcome to our webinar dedicated to how to choose and implement ride-hailing software for the taxi business. My name is Lisa. I'm a lead digital marketer at Onde, a white label ride-hailing platform. And today we are going to talk about one of the most critical parts of your business. And I'm talking about ride-hailing platforms and how to choose the right one for your company. Because choosing the wrong solution can easily destroy your business. Just imagine how many things can go wrong. It could be some technical things, for example, a lack of important features that all competitors on the market have, or finding out about hidden fees from your platform provider. And just in a moment, you understand that your business cannot be profitable. You need to choose the technical solution you are going to work with really carefully. And this is what we are going to discuss at our webinar today. Before we start, just let me mention that you're free to use the chat and Q&A section to ask any question during the webinar. We will answer them after, sorry, not before, but after the main part of the webinar. And of course, you all will get the recording of this webinar. You will get the presentation after it. And yeah, this is about the topic. And let me just introduce our amazing speaker, Natalia. Natalia is a head of customer satisfaction. She's a mobility expert with over 15 years of experience. Natalia has been with us, has been with Onde for quite a while, for quite some years. And before that, she worked for some other transportation companies. And I'm really, really happy to have Natalia today. She's an amazing speaker and an amazing professional, trust me. So hello, Natalia, and welcome.
Hi, Lisa. Okay, you make it almost impossible for me to live up to such an amazing introduction. Thank you. Welcome everyone who's joined us today. Again, as I said, even though I feel it's hard to live up to that expectations, but I'll try my very best. And yes, indeed, I have really worked in different areas of forwarding business. One of my first experiences was in international freight forwarding, and I ended up being the head of sales for DB Schenker, if you know the company, which is a part of a Deutsche Bank, being the second biggest international forwarding company. Never knew I would actually end up on the more technical part of business, but yet it gives me a lot of understanding how people think and what to put into consideration, what actually to prioritize when moving and deciding what technology to onboard. I'll start sharing my screen now so that you can see the presentation and make it a more visual experience for all of us, because I will probably be trying to go off script, but this will keep me intact. So no surprises here. We all live in modern world. We all live in digital world. We are almost, let's say, half of the step. I can't even call it a full step. We're half of a step away from being like AI governed or integrated in every sphere of our life. So it's close to impossible to imagine that any sphere or any business can exist without technology. And of course, having since we work in ride-hailing business, with the ride-hailing platform, this is where we are most experienced with. But working, and for Onde here, I worked for 4 years already. I've seen so many objections, questions, people coming with a lot of hesitations and fears, which is 100% understandable. Because as Lisa mentioned in the very beginning, choosing the right technology can mean a success or a complete disaster for your business. So how to even approach that task of making the right decision, of choosing a technology? And I would start by thinking, what exactly are you trying to solve by adding the technology to your business? Whether it's an existing business or you're just thinking of launching one. So what is the main pain point, or what is the main goal for this technology? What it should do for you? And by that, I mean, if it's an existing business, usually people come thinking, okay, we need to simply be in trend. So everybody else has apps, so we need to have an app. It's one of the ways to approach it, and quite understandable one. Other people can say or can think like, okay, we are very slow. We belong still to the previous century, and we need to speed things up. We need to make sure that all our processes are automated, and we have them on the more modern side of the things. Some may say, okay, we've been accepting calls and orders via calls, but people tend to use technology more, so we are losing our client base, or we want to grow client base. This is another way of approaching what to search in the technology. Some need to have a better control over drivers, making sure that they receive their orders, because they also basically also not a surprise that currently in every driver, I've never met a driver who has not had at least 2 or maybe even 3 phones charged in the car with different providers. So basically having a software for now for drivers has become the only way of receiving orders, or the most common way of receiving orders. And of course, with legislation that forbids any phone calls during the driving, receiving notifications on the screen has become also the only legal way for them to receive orders. So basically, these are the first questions that I invite everyone to start asking yourself, like, what is wait a minute, I think I have my screen sharing paused, right? Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see this.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
back. Okay, I'm back now. So as I said, please start with those questions, like, what exactly do you need the software to do? When you ask those questions and get them answered like honestly, what is the main idea? Then you can proceed to the next stages, where we can look at what are the options, where can this software come from. We have Karin here, who has mentioned in the chat that they are currently working on developing their own in-house solution for that, which is one of the ways to go. You can also order an outsourcing. Basically, you can go to IT companies who provides services of development and order a system for yourself. You can also come to white label providers like us, for example, or any other companies on the market. There are also free ways of developing software, which is no-code tools, or even purchasing code or source code from different type of providers. So these are main ways where you can get the solution from. And I'm not saying that any of them are good or bad. It's just important to understand also, which will be our next, let's say, grade of questions that I recommend asking yourself while considering what is the priority. Let's say, let's consider in-house and outsourced development. I honestly recommend, even, okay, do sell software. I mean, Onde sell software was do that, but when we receive requests and when we see that existing processes has become the biggest, let's say, asset that the company has, either because they're big or because they are so developed and so profoundly dependent on the established processes, then I 100% recommend going either with in-house development or reaching out to outsourced developers, because every other provider will more or less have those processes embedded in the form of existing logic or any other way. But if your processes, the way you conduct your business, the way you approach your operations, if they are your biggest asset, don't even waste time with white label providers, because in that case, you will be requesting a lot of customizations. People will be either telling you honestly that they can or cannot do things. This is actually the optimistic scenario. In most of the cases, you will be given promises and crazy timelines for any sort of developments, which they will never be able to provide. So let's focus here. If your processes are the biggest asset, go with these options. They are the most costly ones, I'll be honest. They take the most time, they cost the most money, but they give you complete control over the solution. You can make it exactly to your liking, to your needs. You can customize it to whatever scale you also need. But there are some downfalls to that as well. Especially with in-house development, you have to have in-house developers, goes by default. And that means that even on the managerial part, you will have to know how to manage them. So you will have your focus split between actually working on the operation part, like launching a business, running daily operations, and also running, let's say, in-house, completely different sphere of business, which would require different managerial approaches, salary approaches. Well, people who work with people understand that having more people to work with usually requires way more stamina and patience, that sometimes it's actually not worth even starting. With the outsourced developers, there are also lots of options, but to my understanding and to my recommendation, what is the biggest downfall of that approach would be that they do not have, or sometimes they only have it for additional price, the further support system. Basically, if you'd want to add some features, to develop it further, to change something, you will constantly be, basically hooked up to that company, who will be controlling and sometimes even dictating the conditions, because they know the technology that they've built it on. They know everything inside, and changing the outsource provider at any stage would be very painful, because it would require an investigative stages for new developers to go through what's been developed before, which they will charge you for. So your processes should be really golden, or maybe even diamond level, if you want to go this road. If you still are open to, let's say, what comes with the solution, let's move on to the next option, which is a white label solution, type of the area where we provide our services in. Also has pros and cons, no surprises and no illusion here. The pros would be the speed of development, because it's an existing, basically, solution, and usually takes 3 to 4 weeks to properly develop and release apps, to brand them with your colors and brands and whatsoever, and you have them up and running. And if you choose your provider properly, meaning that you pay attention to how long they've been on the market, what their successes, what their use cases, the companies that they've built and helped grow, then you basically have a running business in just less than a month. But the thing is that you will also get all the embedded processes and logics that are the essential part of the solution. Just as an example, let's say what we have embedded and pretty much impossible to change is the smart queue for order assignment through the drivers, all of these kind of things. If you are willing to change the existing processes, or simply you don't have any, then I would recommend going through this way. But also, the thing that means a lot is pay attention to financial conditions. We'll talk about that a bit further down. Yes. Okay. Me personally, I'm not stating that this is the absolute truth, but me personally, I do not recommend going with buying source codes or working with no-code tools. Mainly because, first of all, buying a code means that, okay, you purchase whatever exists. We don't know what technology it's been built on, what frameworks the developers used, whether it's even up to date, or maybe they simply copied something that they've developed years ago. There is no proven record of existing companies using it. You don't know how it will operate. And most importantly, there will be no system of further support, and not only like customer support, like we have, let's say, our 24/7 available support team, but technical support, the system where of developers who will be reacting to anything that will be happening. But I know that for a lot of businessmen, it becomes a very, let's say, even mentally important understanding that they own the IP rights for this solution. It can be very challenging to accept that new idea that even though it's an essential part of your business, but you don't own it. So I've seen those considerations, let me put it, or objections to even working with white label or with developers, because you want to own the right. But as I said, very strong cons to me. They're absolutely overriding any pros that this particular approach can have. And no-code tools, again, it's let's say a very compelling idea that, and it currently is actually sort of trending idea. Using any no-code tools, meaning they're available, they're free, you can compile and bend them together at any, let's say, and create whatever you want to create. But eventually it will look like, let's say, technical Frankenstein to me. We've seen that so many times. And also you would require like constantly paying attention how it works. You'll have to have hired developers, and well, basically it's very similar to in-house development, but in that case you have absolutely no support or even no assurance of what's going to happen next to that. So these are simply just considering which to approach. And sometimes the combination of pros and cons can lead you to consider maybe even several approaches. But then again, you just start by asking what's most important. If you are, let's say, if you have plans for global scale, and maybe even to fight against, let's say, Uber and liking huge companies, sometimes it's really worth the risks and worth all the efforts put into the custom development. But if your plans are to provide a very trusted working solution to your local markets really fast, I would consider something else like white label or any similar approaches. But what's next? Okay, so you've considered what is important. You've also considered what are your particular pain points that you want to solve, but why actually we're spending all the time on even talking that and discussing this all. To me, I know that, and probably if you've had businesses before, you understand that choosing this the technology that actually becomes the face of your company is everything. And no surprises here. Technology in case of ride hailing is the face of the business. It's basically your drivers and the technology. This is all that your passengers, who are the paying party here, that they're interacting with. Nothing else is available to them. So all they see, and the first thing they see, is actually the software, and the driver only comes after. So this becomes a vital point of what your passengers will see, what their experience becomes, and whether they would want to use your solution again. Sometimes they don't even reach the point of actually meeting the driver just because they're not enjoying the flow in the app or whatever. So the software that you choose is actually making you either, and again, no 100% guarantees, but either a potentially successful business or a complete bust right from the start. With our type of business also, it's a very easy entry. So regardless of what you choose, whether you go with the development or the white label provider, it's an easy start. So basically you launch the apps, you launch, let's say, marketing campaigns, either digital or offline. So anyway, and that's just easy. And you start collecting your passenger database, your driver database and everything. But exiting or either changing the software will be incredibly painful. And by painful, I mean costly painful, because I know that there are tools to help seamlessly or quasi seamlessly transfer the data from one solution to the other, but in most of the cases it would still bring you some losses in clientele. Not all drivers would automatically sign up to the new solution unless there's a specific system in place to help you do that, which we'll discuss further down. But nevertheless, as I said, entry is way easier than the exit. So making the right decision right from the beginning means you save time, money, nerves. You probably will still lose some sleep, because starting any business is a sleepless endeavor. But in that particular case, at least you will not be worrying about whether you've chosen it right or not. What else? Oh, this is my favorite, the faulty prioritization. But what we mean by that is the amount of requests coming. I'm sure we have a slide on that. I'll actually talk about that later on. The actual calculation of costs and benefits, this is a very tricky part, because sometimes it goes together with the marketing tricks embedded in the offers. And it's not only the white solution offers, it's also the same with the outsourced development or any other, because people trying to sell you, especially, well, with the white label, you become partners. So you basically are staying. But when you purchase a source code, there can be so many hidden surprises. You just won't believe what we've seen so far. But nevertheless, let's discuss some of the things I've mentioned already a bit in more detail. So when we deal with people who are searching for software, I see so many, and a lot of people from sales department see so many requests, like the features, the whatever they compare, and they're really focused on features, whereas not even understanding why. And in most cases, the answer to why are you focusing on that particular feature, like why do you need it, would be, well, because everybody has this, so I need it. Not particular understanding whether it's actually a profit generating feature or it's never will be used, or not even, going to be even needed. But just because of that, you might be paying attention to the wrong thing. So features, even though there are, of course, essential features that should be part of any possible solution, but sometimes over focusing on just the feature set can be very, let's say, it's easy to focus on them, but this is something that actually drives your focus away from what is actually important. The freebies, the marketing tricks that are promised. Let's say, just to give you an example of that, people can promise you free subscriptions for months and months and whatever, but then they will hit you with hidden costs that basically will drown you, or just drain your cash flow to incredible numbers. We've also seen those cases a lot. The custom button labels or features. So basically, in most cases, please create a list of what is essential for you, like literally for your business, because you remember we started with asking those questions. So the first question was like, okay, what exactly am I looking for to do? Like, what are my goals? Why I need this software? The second one was like, okay, what is more important for me, the processes or the software, in terms of the process that I have already established, or the one that I'm willing to accept. And this would be, okay, what is the most important thing? And to answer that, I recommend thinking about what your business would be focusing on. It's a similar way of thinking when you create a business plan. Lisa has conducted several webinars on how to work a business plan for ride-hailing business. And one of these steps was to actually think who you're going to be targeting, like who your target audience would be. And based on that, think what features you'd need to serve them better. And this would give you a better understanding of the essentials, and then the must-haves, of course, and then the nice-to-have ones, and then of completely irrelevant ones that you would probably even prefer not to pay for. And once you have that, it will be easier not to get distracted with the flashy advertisements, of features that look really nice, but you never be even using them. But what actually matters, and I really think that this is actually something that only matters, is the two-part. So the first one, and here it says the second one, but I would focus on that as the first one, the uptime and downtime of the system. As I said, this is your face of the business. If it fails, then basically every downtime is calculated in actual loss. It's not hypothetical. It's not that just something that is inconvenient. It's an actual loss. So choose a provider with the highest uptime numbers, and not just promised ones, but read reviews, go through some use cases, and actually try to talk to people who use that particular software to determine whether what they claim is true. Usually simply by looking at how long the provider has been on the market, it's a more or less an indicator that they know how to survive on the market and how to grow their clientele and client base. Means that they work with their system and they know how to make it stable. And the second one is the pricing model, and not the initial prices, because in most cases, people, especially when it comes to, okay, let's just make a note here that pretty much everything else I will be talking about would be about choosing the white label solution. The reason for that is that if you've decided to go with the in-house development, well, I've already shared pros and costs, similar for the outsourcing, and it's a complete different story. So Everything I'll be discussing further down will be white label provider, okay? Just so that we are on the same page. It doesn't mean that you are not welcome to stay, just to understand that everything I'm talking from now on will be about white label. So the pricing model in most cases, basically 99% of cases I've seen, consists of two payments, basically sort of initial payment or startup fee, or any way they call it, and then the monthly subscription payment. And of course, I understand that the initial fee also matters because you calculate your investments, what you needed, your initial costs and everything. But usually it's a 1 or maybe 2-time payments. And in the life cycle, in the lifespan of your business, it doesn't make that much impact on your annual performance that compared to the monthly payments, monthly tariffs, or however company calls them. This is where the biggest trick part starts. And now I want to find the wait a second. Yes, I'm jumping here. I will go back to what I haven't discussed it, but I think this one is one of the most important ones as well. So to properly compare monthly revenue numbers, you need to understand how you're going to be running your business, and most importantly, how you're going to be motivating your drivers. I know it's sometimes, some part is really dependent on the passengers, some parts are very dependent on the drivers. And this is important to also differentiate from what is affecting what part. So this particular thing, the attitude towards and the choice between tariffs goes directly hand in hand with how you're going to work with your drivers. And by that, I mean, the most, let's say, popular scheme right now is to charge them the percentage. Let's say back in the days when Uber was just starting, they were charging crazy amounts of 40%. Basically, drivers were getting almost half of what the order cost. Nowadays, not a surprise here, everyone has a tendency to lower those percentages because this business has long become the business about drivers, keeping the drivers, making them happy and satisfied. So everybody's trying to either decrease the percentage or find another way of financially motivating drivers to stay with the provider and to actually work for that particular company rather than choosing another one. So the revenue share, as I said, if you still consider to charge your drivers a percent from the orders, then of course you should consider the same approach to your revenue share plan with your provider. It has to be like fair between, again, here options are different. A lot of competitors or a lot of companies, they just offer different percentages, but you need to make sure that whatever they offer makes sense to you personally and of course to your market. So that's discussable. The next one is either flat rate from the order or any sort of fixed plan. So the flat rate is very compelling. I know that a lot of partners want it because it's very easy to predict. If you have a flat rate, a monthly flat rate with your provider, you can easily build any financial schemes or any financial plans for the future. If you grow your, try to develop your business plan further down, and maybe you're searching for additional investments, then having a flat rate, easy. But in most cases, you'll never get it. Because everybody's smart, we all want to make a profit. Also, not gonna lie, or those falsely advertising that we're here to offer everything for free. No, we all want to survive on the market. We all want to develop, grow, and be able to provide a better service. So everyone wants to make a profit. So that's why another big alternative would be fixed plans, either per order or per driver. Again, it has been very traditional, if I may put it this way, several years back, and it's coming back, this tendency of providing that particular approach. What I find important to understand that, for example, if you charge your drivers fixed percent from the orders, you can build your motivation system for drivers to motivate them to work more, to get more orders. You can even have some sort of ratings for that. So a lot of options to motivate the drivers. If you have flat rate, then basically you have limited possibilities to grow. So it's either will be limited to what your driver wants to do, or it can be limited to just working hours or anything. So pros and cons, you remember, it's my favorite, pros and cons everywhere. Just think really thorough. And by choosing a provider, consider how you're going to be charging your drivers. So how you're going to be making your money, how you're going to be spending your money. And then based on that, consider the pricing models. I'll go find the one that I jumped from. Okay, probably this one. Yeah, so we've spoken about the downtimes of the system. Believe me, we had, I really hope that I don't have a lot of my coworkers here with us right now, because some of the information I'm sharing probably they will not be very happy with about. But we've last year we calculated that average downtime of 0.1% actually costs several thousand of dollars per company. So this is something to not overlook. Okay, I know that usually, as I said, people tend to base their focus on features, buttons, and all of that, but downtimes, and not even downtime at all, because again, no lies and no surprises. Every system has downfalls. There's not even, how to say that, if someone tells you they have 100% uptime, run, because they not only they don't have it, like they tell you the truth, but if they lie about that, that means that they don't have a system in place how to deal with downtimes and how to properly notify companies and their partners about that. So those who are honest about admitting that yes, we do, but they have a system in place of how to deal with it. Let's say us in Onde, we have backend developers on call 24/7. They have shifts, they're there. So we have a system of notifications in place that like at least several people, no matter what time, no matter what conditions, whatever, they get notifications sent to their, like, I've actually heard once they get like siren-like call on their phone. So the response rate to any system misbehavior is basically like few seconds. Well, in most of the cases, like let's say 20 to 30 seconds, which takes them to turn off the siren and open the application that they need to in order to do whatever voodoo they do. Because okay, I'm not a technical person, so I don't know what exactly it takes, but believe me, knowing, so if you deal with any provider, ask them for existing process of how they deal with downtime. Sometimes, especially if you're on a call, ask them that, because having them on the call will give you a better understanding of whether they're trying to come up with an answer or they're actually giving you a right answer, not the right one, but the true one. Okay, that's exactly what I was just talking about. So ask those. These are not very convenient questions, but they're very important for you. So don't be shy to ask questions that are really not very convenient or not exactly what your providers usually expect, especially salespeople on the calls. So there's so many more, but I'm focusing your attention on those two particular huge parts, okay? The pricing model and the downtime and the uptimes, downtimes. What is also usually very commonly seen around different providers? Hidden costs. And in that particular part, let's differentiate hidden costs and add-ons, because having an add-on at additional price, nothing bad about that, because especially if you're told upfront about the existing additional cost, you know, if you need that particular service or not. If you don't pay, but at least you were notified. But there are hidden costs, and by hidden cost, let me give you also an example here. I mean, let's say, okay, quite recently, I had an example. I've seen one of the commercial offers where you were charged per order, let's say 2%. No, there was a fee per driver. So they had €9 per driver, which looks amazing. Believe me, when I saw that particular price, I was like, okay, we cannot beat that because our economic would not survive with that. But then I continued reading, and there was like, okay, €9 per driver. And then the next one was, okay, but we have a choice of 3 possible maps with navigation, and that would cost you around €400 per month with average of 50 drivers. So I was like, okay, 400 with average of 40 drivers. That was more than another, let's say, almost €11 on top. So 9 plus 11 was already not 9, but 20. Then they also were charging a special 2% additional charge for using a pay gate. And then there was additional charge for SMS, not only the registration SMS, but any other SMS that might be sent. So at the end, when we sat down and simply calculated the price, it gave us something around $35 per driver, which was nothing even close to €9 per driver. But of course, all those additional costs were written in a tiniest font possible. That would make it almost impossible even to read, because usually our mind thinks, okay, it's there, maybe it's just a disclaimer like usually people put, but then no, it wasn't. And this is also not even the worst scenario, because at least they had it written. We've seen cases where all those things were discovered after you've already onboarded onto the system and you started adding your passengers and drivers on that. So hidden costs are a really big, I'm trying to stay very, let's say, diplomatic in choosing the words I use. So they could be really painful once they sum up and once you calculate your overall balance. So, okay, that was discussed. Okay, well, this was it. I'm probably going a little bit over my speed of talk is actually faster than I see. Okay, but this is exactly what I've just mentioned. And here, for example, some of the things that I personally consider not hidden costs, but rather add-ons, let's say the payment for adding gateways. Most of the companies, they have them quite open. Like us, for example, we do have some pay gates that are available, but if you particularly want a personalized pay gate that you want to work with, in most cases, we can consider adding it, but that would require a special fee. We're not shy to say that. No, we're even trying to deny it. So But those that have already been integrated, they're available for free. There are no other fees that we charge for them at all. So, an interesting part with some of the commissions, when you get those very beautiful numbers, ask deeper questions about them as well. Let's say you get that 9% per driver. Ask, are they going to be charged from any driver that is onboarded on the system, or it's only, let's say, active drivers, or will the suspended drivers also be included? Like, dig deeper. Again, I know that if I have any salespeople here on the call, they will not be very happy about it, but I even tell them that they have to be ready and willing to answer those questions. And the reason for that is that I'd rather have a very satisfied and a ready to go customer who joins us than for them to discover any, things that would become unsatisfactory for them when they already have joined us. So I prefer to deal with happy customers rather than to just have more customers. So sometimes it's best to give them all the picture that's there and give them the choice if they're willing to go this way, rather than just promote and use those sales tricks in order to get them join us and then let the account management team deal with the consequences. No. This is not our way. Similar with, let's say, fixed rate for rides, whether they're going to be charging only for, let's say, created rides, are they going to be charging only for completed orders? So whenever even you receive those numbers, don't compare them just, okay, you gave me 15% euro and somebody gave me 14%. Sometimes those numbers mean different things. So ask deeper questions about what those numbers actually represent, what they include, how they're calculated, and what you will end up paying. The more consistent and the more, let's say, meticulous you are at the stage of choosing a provider, the less surprises you'll face once you start your business. And once you start your business, you'd rather focus on the operational side of it than deal with all those, surprises that might occur. So the features I've slightly mentioned before, but as I said, to create that must-have features, this is basically an example what we think are a must-have currently on the market, but I would still start that particular process by with learning what your business would look like. Who will you be servicing? Because sometimes, let's say, like corporate accounts, the ability to work with corporate accounts might become the biggest must-have for you, because you probably think that, or not think, but because you want to only work with corporate accounts. So for you, having, let's say, any other or safety button may not even mean anything, because your type of business or your way of conducting your business would not even cover those things. So before creating the must-have feature list, think of who you're going to be working with. So what exactly you need to do and what you need to have. And most providers, they have like feature docs. You can request them, and you just, like have several of them and compare them. But again, in order to properly compare them, start by thinking who you're going to be working with, because then you'll understand what is essential, what your business cannot survive without, and what is actually like, okay, nice to have, but not necessarily needed. Also, like, again, this is an example, not necessarily means that it will be the same for you. For some, it might be completely like the best thing ever and the absolute has to be, but just as an example. Of course, the specific requirements for your location will whether you have the providers has your language, pay gates that are actually working on your markets, maps that are properly working in your locations, whether they're giving the accurate destinations and accurate locations. Well, these are, of course, important. What are the other things that I recommend also thinking about is basically the future. Like, what's next? Okay, you've launched your business, you've chosen the provider, let's say hypothetically, right? But what other plans you have? Like, do you have, and by that I mean, let's say, I know cases where people simply want to serve their local, let's say, city, and that's basically it. They want to provide good service on their local market without any, like global or even national ambition to grow and develop, which is completely understandable and normal, to focus on providing a proper service to your location. In that case, you will probably not require a lot of different verticals or a lot of different features. You just need to be a stable, modern, working solution for your targeted audience. But if you do have plans for to scale up, to maybe broader your targeted audience, to serve different types of passengers, to maybe grow your passenger even locally, then you need to think whether the solution that you are currently discussing the possible cooperation with have ability to work with sudden influx of orders. Because you can run, let's say, a marketing campaign, and then all of a sudden you have you used to have, let's say, 100 orders per day, and then all of a sudden, as a result of the marketing campaign, you're facing, let's say, 1,000 orders per day. Can your software adapt to that, and how fast it can do? One of the let's say indications that the software can actually not adapt to it properly or fast enough is when your providers share you the graded revenue share, or the graded monthly tariff plan. Let's say they have X amount paid for 100 orders, and then double X paid for 500 orders. And that, if you see that graded approach, that means that either they require to add more technical resources to process the order flow, or they simply need to add some sort of ecosystem to process those spikes, which is a very bad indicator. It means that they have no ability to adapt to it momentarily. So the ability to work with growing number of orders is one of the also key indicators that your business will survive once you decide to invest into marketing, into promotion, into growth. And another thing is, okay, you've started, you've launched ride hailing. Do you have any other plans? Like, do you have any plans of adding different verticals, let's say delivery, or maybe some on-demand vertical, and see if your provider that you're currently discussing with has not necessarily already in place solution, but at least a way to add them. That means that once you are ready to grow, you're ready to add something new, you don't have to start that process of finding the proper software all over again. You can do it with your current provider, which, believe me, will make your life way easier. So just to summarize what we've discussed. Okay, you compare the pricing models, see if there are any hidden costs, calculate your business plan to make the right decision. Pay attention to stability and reliability of the platform. Compare really pay attention to whether the provider has a system of reaction and notification in place. Compare features and focus on those that are must-haves and not just, those long list of everything. And compare who gives you better options for further growth and development and diversification if you have those plans down. The next slide, I would actually not even focus a lot on that. That's already self presentation in terms of we at Onde understanding how painful sometimes is dealing with the wrongly chosen software. And we have a system where we help partners transfer from existing providers to us. We help with exporting and importing all the driver lists. Our support team, which is absolutely incredible, they help to set all the system in order for it to be ready to launch. So that's basically how good we are. But I can talk like another webinar on that. And in order to save your time, let me just move on to write this particular thing. Means that I am done with my endless monologue. Thank you so much for being here with us and for listening. And now I'm ready for your questions, but right after I drink a little bit of tea because I've talked too much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Natalia. While you're drinking your tea, I'm gonna quickly answer the question from Islam regarding the presentation. Yes, the presentation will be shared with you by email after the webinar together with the recording. So yeah, it will be done. And I guess we can just go to our questions. I'm going to start with the Q&A section, and then I will move to the chat. So the very first one that we have here is the one from Sami. Would you or have you considered offering, selling, licensing your solution to respond to the question need of owning a platform?
Hi, Sami. I believe I just sent you an email a few hours ago. So nice to put make it a more personal introduction now. Okay, let me put it this way. Currently, we are not even considering these particular approaches, but I do understand that, and I've seen this tendency in different countries where legislation has made it either compulsory or obligatory to sort of locate and have these standalone local solutions. I know that we have plans to create a different approach for companies that have become so big and crucial, and to offer them some sort of solution to that. I'm talking very vaguely. It's just because, as I said, we don't have it in place right now, but this is something that we are considering. And because, as I mentioned, we see that for several countries already, those legislations are in place, and these tendencies continues to grow. But I wouldn't be promising for that to happen for sure. Again, I hate giving misinformation or confuse. So if this is something that you absolutely need right now, then I would say no. But if it's just a hypothetical for future, then hypothetically everything is possible.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you so much, Natalia, for your answer. So the next question, and we actually have a number of questions that are connected to our pricing, to how much Onde costs. So Gabrielle is asking, how much is this, and why doesn't your website specify the fees? If there is a fees link on your website, please share here. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much for this question. And I know you cannot see our head of marketing right now, but she's probably clapping and be like jumping out of excitement because she's been working on adding this information on our website. So it's coming. It's not there right now, but it's coming. And one of the reasons why we don't have it currently is exactly the complexity of having those approaches that I've been just tackling upon during my presentation. So we consider the business model that our partners have. We want to make it just and workable for our partners, depending on what their business model is. If we add every option, every possibility on the website, it will look like, if you have that, then go here. It's kind of confusing, but I see your point, and I know that it's preferable to see at least, the level. But in that case, I simply recommend contacting our sales department. They're really fast to answer, but they will start by asking you questions first in order to give you the proper pricing that would suit you. They would start by asking you questions like what your business like, what your plans are, how you're going to be working with your drivers, because basically my presentation was not, I'm not just saying it, it's the principles that we are working with in our company.
Yeah, thank you so much, Natalia. And just to add to this, I'm kind of writing down all the names, all of you who were wondering about the prices. So I'm going to make sure that you will get, that our managers will get in touch with you after the webinar. And yeah, you will get this initial contact. And as Natalia said, you will have to answer a couple of questions to get the pricing. Okay, the next question is from Karen. We're planning to create an application and our ideas are more or less on same things we saw on this call. So what help B&B can expect from Onde?
Okay, what help does B&B need from Onde? And in order not to go into that, let's do the following. I will ask Lisa to send you my personal calendar, and let's schedule a call directly with me anytime soon, and we can discuss it like literally what you're facing. You've mentioned that you're currently considering in-house development, but let's see what we can find. Let's say, even if we can't, but I'm sure we can have a good discussion. So you'll have my calendar. We'll schedule a call and I'll discuss it with you personally, okay? Because again, I'll go into asking you questions and then it will be another 1 hour of everything. Would that work for you?
Yes, Karen says, thank you so much. And yeah, I'm gonna make sure that you get the link after the webinar. Okay, so this is all with questions on Q&A in Q&A section, and I'm going to the chat. So I have already mentioned that the webinar will be shared on YouTube, and there you can see it in, you can add subtitles in all the different languages. So if for someone it's not that easy to listen in English, you will have the opportunity on YouTube to choose any language. Then, okay, we have some questions from Maria. So how should we choose a pricing model for a taxi company with about 100 drivers, hired drivers, considering we plan to launch independent drivers as well? So I guess it's about the pricing model for a taxi company when you have hired drivers, around 100 of them, and then
okay,
like if the company also plans to have some independent drivers, like a ride-hailing model.
Again, having a hired or independent drivers, that's not that big of an effect on the pricing model, rather than what are the conditions. Again, whether they if it's a hired driver, by hired drivers, you mean that they're going to be working on salary, that this is more of a traditional taxi type of a business, not exactly ride hailing. If it's a higher, like fixed salary, then the best option would be either a flat fee or let's say a fee per driver, which is possible. But in that case, you're not like you don't base your financial relationship with the technical provider on the amount of orders or anything. So it's basically either flat rate or a fee per driver.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, thank you. And another question from Maria is, what guarantees should a good software provider offer?
Okay, what guarantees should, and I'm going to be answering it by asking another question, which is my favorite way. And it's not because I want to avoid answering, it's because it is such almost philosophical discussion that we can have on this particular topic. Like, okay, what guarantee should a good software provider offer? And by that, I mean, we have our terms and conditions, and of course, we have the privacy policy. We provide security for all the data that we store, not sharing, not being available to anyone. And this is the standard approach where GDPR correspondent and all of that. But when it comes to, let's say, okay, just to give you an example, I've been asked questions like, okay, can you give me a guarantee that you will still be here in 1 year? Like, trick question, because no one can. I cannot read the future. I hope that I will, right? Because, okay, but there are surprises, pleasant and unpleasant equally. But the thing is that when you also look at the track record and at the history of the company, that should give you a better understanding of whether they're here to stay and their intentions are to stay, rather than to simply collect initial fees and initial money and just, evaporate afterwards. So by looking at the track record and the history, you'll get a better understanding of what can. But of course, having proper legal documents should also be a very good option here. Like, make sure that you read through the terms and conditions or any other documents that the provider has and has in the open, and whether they have, let's say, a history of them. If you can easily see the tendencies, what they're going towards, that's also a good indicator. But again, guarantees are like,
yeah, it's pretty much impossible to guarantee anything in this world. So
yeah, once to be okay, another example, please don't say I said that, but once I said, okay, guys, we have to have sort of guarantees. And then the solution that I got from our top management was like, okay, can you get any guarantees from Google? No, that's basically it.
yeah, exactly. So other questions. We have one from Karen again, like, please explain flat rate. I just remember this question was asked while you were talking about the flat rate, but maybe if you could just quickly repeat.
The flat rate, sure. So basically the flat rate is a fixed amount per month. Let's say you pay $1,000 per month. That's it. So it's not even dependent on the number of orders or number of drivers or anything. It's just a flat rate per month or per year. That is also an option. Let's say you can calculate that. So it's the amount that you pay to provider that is not dependent neither on the number of orders or on the number of drivers.
Yep, thank you so much.
I see a question here in the Q&A. What are the pricing plans? You mean what are the pricing plans that we at Onde offer, or what are the hypothetical, or can you please specify?
Yeah,
Because if we talk about here at Onde, I would rather recommend you talk with the sales representative. They're way more knowledgeable on that than I am right now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just again add your name, Emil, on my list to make sure that our representative gets in touch with you after the webinar. So there are some discussions happened.
I've seen some notes from Spanish speaking, yes. I think, by the way, can we run some sort of questionnaire to see what topics would our partners or potential partners be interested in discussing in Spanish, and ask some of our Spanish speaking employees to actually help them with that?
Yes, I think
an idea.
That sounds like a good idea, and we will do that. And yeah, maybe we should just have a separate Q&A session with our Spanish-speaking employees who will be happy to answer any questions from the audience. But meanwhile, I have another question from Fazi. He was asking about the pricing, and I have already answered about that, but what's the percentage for the SMS for Onde?
From what I know, it's not a percentage. It depends on the provider that we use, and I know that our director of operations, they constantly look to optimize ways, but usually it's a fixed amount, and it's included, so you do not pay any additional fees for SMS or anything. So it's included into the monthly rate that you subscribed with. There are no payments for that additionally. I think the only case can be if you consider running a special SMS campaign. I remember we had cases like that. Let's say, okay, you purchased from somewhere, I don't know, a database of drivers or a database that you particularly want to target, and you want to send out of thousands and thousands of SMS. And then in that case, you'd need to discuss it with the account manager of your basically with your account manager if there will be any additional fees. But that's the only one. But all those confirmational SMSs, they're not charged additionally at all. They're included.
Great, thank you so much. Then I saw a couple of questions from Mariusz. First of all, hidden costs for what? You were talking about different hidden costs, and you explained, gave some examples, but again, maybe you can just repeat them.
Sure, some hidden costs can be additional charges for using maps. Some charge for navigation on the maps. Sometimes they charge for, if we talk about the maps as well, sometimes they charge for how many times the maps were used and the navigation on the maps were used. Some other hidden costs can be, let's say, additional charges to use pay gates, because usually when using pay gates and providing opportunity to your passengers to pay using the credit cards, the only fees that you should be expected to pay is the one that the pay gate charges directly. So, for example, our customers, they're not paying us anything for pay gates in terms of any fees. But I've seen cases where partners charge for that additionally. So let's say they would add 1% on that on top of the fees that are paid directly to the pay gate. So these are the hidden costs. The other hidden costs can be if you pay for those SMS as well. Some do charge you additionally for sending confirmational SMSs, especially if it's, let's say, second SMS. They can say, okay, the first SMS is free, and then pretty much everything else is paid. And that means that if your passenger has re-signed to your app or that did anything, then you will be charged for that. So these type of hidden costs, it's hard for me to think of any because we do not do that. We do have a list of add-ons, additional services that we charge additionally, but we share them if needed. But hidden costs, just make sure to read all these small fonts that are written in any commercial offers you receive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Natalia. Another one, is there pay gate direct to driver?
Can you repeat that again, please?
Is there pay gate direct to driver?
I'm not sure. I understand exactly what that means. We do, for example, we have wallet for passengers, for drivers, which facilitates all those cashless payments. I also know that in some countries we use Stripe Connect to arrange the payouts to drivers. We also have an option, which is an additional service that our support team provides, is setting up automated driver payouts. This is also possible, but I think I need some more clarification on what exactly you mean by pay gate direct to driver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see if we will get this clarification. And meanwhile, there is a question about the Ride Hailing Factory. Did you guys open the Ride Hailing Factory training this year? No. Like many of us waited for a long time and no notifications about the training came. No, unfortunately, didn't happen this year, but let's hope, right? Let's hope that we will make it happen. And thank you so much for mentioning it. It's good to get this feedback from you. It's good to hear that you are waiting for this. We will take this into account and we will, of course, make sure that we prepare something for you. Of course, we will do that. Then the next question from Islam, if I consider white label solution, can I switch to in-house model if operation grow very big and you need to personalize the software to your own needs?
Yes, of course. What I would recommend in that case is make sure that whoever you consider to go with, hopefully us, as a white label provider, has any sort of exporting data availability in the system to make that transition as easy as possible in order to avoid any big data loss. So in that case, which for example we do have, so we're not going to be, entrapping anyone with us for good if they choose to at some point move on to another way of having the software, then of course it's possible.
Yep. Thank you so much. We have some other questions. Let's just agree that we will cover the ones that we already have, and all other questions from this moment, I will write them down and we will answer them after the webinar personally, because we don't have a lot of time. We're already like kind of 20 minutes late, but
Sorry for that. I like to talk.
yeah, but it's okay. I mean, it was very interesting. So the question from Fazi, can you share similar challenges you faced when starting up?
You mean us as a provider, or was it the question for anyone else in the chat as a business?
Fazi, please clarify this one, and I'm going to move to the next question. Again, what to do in case the taxi is owned by different owners, yet you want to sell the app to them?
Okay. then I would consider actually. Okay, I'll start with that. Me personally, again, this is a very hypothetical situation. If a taxi company is owned by different people, then it's best to understand what is the current situation like. Are they, who, like, is there any sort of governing body? Let's say, is it a board of directors, or maybe they're just investors, but legally and from the organizational chart, there's someone, one particular person who owns. So what is their organization? How are they governed? And what are their relationships? If they are, let's say, equal partners, then you sit down with them as, let's say, with the board of directors, and you discuss the pros and cons of selling them the app, or selling, whether it's an existing already app, or you just want to become like a technical consultant for them and help them find an app. So in that case, again, you see, I keep asking questions as an instead of giving direct answers, because a lot of those questions, they have like sub questions and sub levels to them. So again, if and by the amount of a number of questions that you Fuzzy has, maybe it would also make sense for you to schedule a call either with any of our business development managers, or even with me. I'm apparently being very generous right now. So Lisa, can you please also share my personal calendar with Fuzzy, and let's talk about what your what exactly do you envision? What is your picture that you're trying to clear for yourself?
Yep, sure. Thank you so much. I'm going to share it right after the webinar. So the next question that we have, I'd like to ask you, how long does it take to develop a new feature in the app? For example, we have a special request for creating fixed prices for all ride types, car types, but seems to be difficult to develop it on your side.
Oh, these are my most adored questions. I'm really, really grateful for you to ask that, because I wouldn't be myself if I was not willing to answer the not comfortable questions. So we are cloud-based solutions. So we already have an existing logic and architecture to the whole system. And sometimes when we receive the request, okay, not sometimes, the current existing process of dealing with any request, any and every request we receive from our potential and existing partners is the following. So we receive the request, we carefully study the business need of that request, why it's needed, and what effect it will have on the business. We pass all that information to our product team. They gather it all from all sides. It's not only sales, account, like support team, basically with from any department that deals with external customers. They gather it, they prioritize it based on several. I've been trying to get to really understand the whole prioritization system that they use, but it's very complex and very detailed. And they prioritize those requests that are, of course, considering whether they're useful for a large number of partners. Because, as I said, we are cloud-based. So whatever we develop becomes available for everyone. It's not just for one partner that can be done. So it becomes available for everyone. And since that is one of the core aspects of the system, it means that sometimes, even if the request seems easy for a partner or for the person who requests it, to properly include it into the logic of an existing solution may not be that easy. But from what I know, we are very honest about what is possible, what is not. And if it's something that is completely stopping you from launching, like you cannot work without that feature at all, like not even a single chance that you can launch without that feature, then in that case, I know that salespeople would simply tell you, we are so sorry, but we would probably recommend you to contact anyone else, any other provider who already has it. If you can launch without that particular feature and simply start your operations and then add it at some point, then definitely it should be easier to work this way. And then you will also, or at least should be given at least an answer whether it will be possible or not. Again, I forbid anyone from lying. Like, we don't do that. But I know that giving a specific timeline sometimes is really difficult because there's so many requests that are coming every time. And I'm not saying that your request is not important or less important, but sometimes it's just less popular. And there are requests that will be used by bigger number of partners that get a higher priority over yours.
Yeah, thank you, Natalia. We have a couple of more questions, and one of them is from Mariusz again. What is customer verification to ensure driver safety?
Again, as a definition or as something that we provide?
I guess as something that we provide.
I don't think that we actually have any, but it's a good question. I'll even put it down for myself to verify if we have any, okay?
Yeah, I will just put down your name, Mariusz, also, so that you can get this answer from one of our representatives.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and the next, Mariusz clarified his question about the pay gate directly to the driver. He means that the driver directly receives payment for the trip from the wallet or app payment. He doesn't want the payment for the service to go through his account. So is it possible to set up payment directly to the driver's bank account?
When it comes to those very detailed technical particularities, I really best if you talk to either pre-sale or support. They're way more knowledgeable than I am.
Yeah, but Mariusz, our manager will get in touch with you, so they will be able to answer this question.
I think, but from what I'm reading right now, this is exactly how it should work. So basically, we have in the management platform, which we call My Hub, when you set up driver plans, how you set them up means that driver receives their part of the payment and the company receives only what is being charged from the driver. So it's not that all the money goes to you and then you pay it to the drivers. It has different ways. So depends on how you set it in My Hub.
Yep. Thank you. And I guess we have the last, but not the least, of course. Is the Onde app available in Botswana, and also which smart transport apps are available in Botswana?
Okay. Again, I don't know of any impediments to have an Onde app available in Botswana. I think it should be a yes to this particular one. But what other transport apps are available, unfortunately, I don't know. But usually a simple Google search could help you find, if any, but Onde should be able to provide options there. From what I know, we don't have any limitations for that country at all.
Yep. Thank you so much. We don't have any other questions, I guess. Thank you. Thank you for so many questions this time. It was really nice to look at all of them, and thank you so much, Natalia, for answering them, and thank you so much for such a great presentation. I think it was very clear and lots of very useful information that you cannot just find anywhere in the internet. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yep. So thank you everyone for joining our webinar. Just stay tuned. We have more to come, more new topics to talk about. Pricing, Emil, we will share the pricing. It will be shared with you by one of our managers. So no worries here. Everyone who requested our pricing will get it. So yeah, thank you so much. And we will say hello to Christina, of course. Thank you guys. It was a pleasure to have you here today, and have a nice day, the rest of the day, where you are right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.